Returnal review. I have something to say before the review. I didn't beat the game, so think of this as game recs before you buy. But instead of first impressions, this will be everything you need to know to. I don't know if that makes sense or something. But this will kind of be like a review. I feel like I got my opinion in pretty well because I played I'm on the fourth or fifth biome, so my opinion is pretty rock solid at the moment. The main reason I didn't review the game later is because of school, and RE8 comes out Friday, and Hood and Outlaw and Legend, or whatever it's called, comes out on May 10th. So now on to the review. The story is you crash on a planet and you are trying to find out why you keep dying and coming back to life. Also, you keep finding about your past and why are you on the mission in the first place. And I do have a problem with the story. So far, I'm on the 4th or 5th biome out of 6, and the problem is the story hasn't evolved much from what it was at the start. It's like the developers forgot to tell the story, and I hope they finish it well by the end of the game. The main character isn't amazing or anything, but she does get the job done. The pacing is a little slow, and they need to conclude it in a good way. Now onto the gameplay. The graphics and particle effects are amazing. They flow with the gameplay and make it look very, very stylish and stuff like that. The game is a roguelite, so you go on runs with your pistol in a procedurally generated level, or not level, but you're in a biome and then your layout's procedurally generated. The levels are they're kind of unique, but they can get repetitive. Also, I don't know if this is just me or not, but when you go to the next biome and you die, you return to the original biome, or the biome you were in before, and there are new layouts from before to try to keep it fresh. But it kind of fails in doing that. It fails because the environments feel almost the same. I know, every biome feels very distinct, and I know that it's just, so the layout doesn't make every run feel unique, right? And they feel almost exactly the same. I think, hopefully that makes sense, okay? There's also the same enemies, same feeling all around. You might be like, oh yeah, same enemies, the biome and everything. But in some other roguelites, there's the same enemies obviously, but they're placed in different ways and stuff like that, if that makes sense. Also, after each run, you only start with a pistol and a couple of permanent items like your sword, some extra stuff you get on later in the game. I don't want to spoil. Overall, I love the amount of new stuff you unlock per biome and new weapons you find per biome. There are only 10 weapons, which doesn't sound good at all, but don't worry. Every biome unlocks new alt fires, so it feels more fresh. One big thing about the combat is your alt fire. When you hold down left trigger or L2 or whatever all the way down, you press it. You can use your alt fire, and if you press it halfway, you aim. Overall, the haptics and triggers and 3D audio are just so damn good in this game. It's insane. I hope they can top it even more in other games like Ratchet and Clank, which I'm very excited for. Don't even start on the load times. The game loads in 2 seconds every time you die. It's honestly insane. Also, another thing is, the end of every biome there is a boss fight, but you do not need to beat any of the bosses again if you die. Another thing is, you can't save during your runs, so it's a pain in the ass if you're on a really long one. So you have to put your PS5 in rest mode. In my opinion, you should be able to save mid-run, so when you leave the game you can go back, but I still think every time you die you restart, obviously. It's just, when you leave the game you go back to your mid-run, if that makes sense. Also, another thing is, all the environments are stunning and have a lot of unique enemies and that fit them. Another thing is the progression does get slow at times, which can be bad for pacing. Also, the final thing for gameplay is you play the first biome, the game gets way better afterwards. The first biome feels very, I don't know, there's not that many enemy variety. The guns there's only 3 guns in the first biome and stuff like that. It can get a little boring, but after that it gets way better. Also, for example, more enemies, more guns, more everything basically, and the other biomes. Now on to performance. The game performance is honestly very steady. I had only one crash and 2 times where the game froze. Overall, it runs very smoothly, runs fine, not really any frame drops or anything like that. Now on value. Judging by how long I played so far, it's fairly lengthy for a $70 game and stuff like that. I predict I'll beat the game in like 15 hours, maybe a little more, I don't know. But this is very dependent on your skill and stuff like that. Overall, the game is not insanely challenging for my skill, but I think for if you're a really casual gamer, it might take you like 30 hours to beat the game. I think the quality with the length that I estimate is good, so the value is not bad. But there is not any replay value. There's none. I did some research to see if there's any new game plus or anything, but no, there's not. You can do new runs, but you're basically still fighting the same enemies and bosses, stuff like that. There's not really any point of doing new runs. My final verdict is the game is fun and pretty, but can get samey, and it feels like you're wasting your time if you keep dying over and over again, like in Demon Souls or any Souls type of game. Every time you die, but that after you get the boss and defeat it, and it just feels pretty great. Like in every Souls type of games, after you manage to do something you thought you couldn't, it feels great. I would give this game a 7 out of 10 so far, and it's a PS5 game that feels like it was meant for the PS5. That's my review, and bye.